Good morning, people. Hi, guys. So, of course, we always pick the time when the Miata's going on again. Seems like whatever we do, we always pick a time. We try to pick a time where there's not any noise, and then there's noise. We asked the Mercedes guys to pull their car in the garage and get pictures, so that won't make any noise for a little while, but you can't help it. The car with the engine in the wrong spot down there in the wrong place. Good to see you guys. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for the support. We just got done with our GS warm-up. I don't know if you guys were here yesterday to watch the GS stuff, but there's a lot of cars out there. I think it's the biggest GS field we've had in a bunch of years, and CCR field. So combined, we have a big car count for the race today, which is great because again, I don't know when this economy bubble might ever burst, but it's great to see record car counts in both series. Talking about this series, again, the record car counts in this too. They're at capacity, and you can see this year. I think everybody's upped their game in a little bit of everything this year, including like just the wall banners and the floor banners and stuff that we saw last year. Everything keeps getting bigger and better, and people are spending more money on this kind of stuff. So maybe somebody will dump a whole bunch of money here, and we can get bigger and better and stuff. But we got the wall sticker, so that's cool. So I want to talk a little bit about the livery because that's something that has changed, and people have asked me a bunch of like, why did you pick this livery or whatever? And I guess it was because I wasn't creative enough to figure out how I could change my existing livery so it looked different than years past, but it didn't lose its kind of identity, right? Because when you have a yellow and blue car, it's hard to change something. Like I could change a stripe, but the stripe really doesn't make it look different from the same car we raced for the last 20 years. So when we're talking about how we could like make an evolution on the nickel moly livery, again, we could add stripe to do something, but it's still going to kind of look the same because the basic colors that I'm dealing with are red, white, and blue for liquid moly. Anyway, I couldn't decide, so I said, well, why can't I do both? And I know it's been done before. Obviously, and I think Formula One had a half and half car once, and we did the zebra car for Sebring one time. But the zebra car was really different. It was a very different livery rather than just putting our two liveries together. So I said, let's do it. Let's render it and see how it looks. And I didn't really love it when it was on the rendering, like the 3D rendering on paper. But I didn't have a better idea, so I just went with it. And the feedback we've gotten has been awesome. Everybody loves it, thinks it's great. And if you watch it from around the track or on TV, at one corner it really looks like a yellow and blue Turner car, and on another corner it looks like a nickel moly car. And I don't know if I just got it right, put it on the right size, but it's confusing. It's awesomely confusing for TV. So that's kind of how that came about. I don't know if it's going to stick the whole year. We'll see how this goes. But so far, the feedback's been positive. I want to talk to have him go up and talk first because it's kind of the man of the hour putting this car in third yesterday in qualifying. So Robbie qualified third, which is awesome. We are, I think, 1/10 off the pole, and 1/10 here is just a little hand movement, I think. But we're happy because I think we brought a gun to a gunfight instead of a knife to a gunfight in some years past. But I'm cautiously optimistic about that because there's a couple of cars, one of them with the engine in the wrong place, and the other one with a horse on the hood and not a Ferrari. Those guys haven't really shown their stuff in qualifying and warm up or anything yet, and we know they have some big top speed. So we'll see what happens here. But Robbie, talk to us about qualifying.
Yeah, it was nice. Qualifying is always fun. You're on low fuel, new tires. The car's in its peak performance window. You'll never have a better car than that. But yeah, I can't dress myself. Oh. Anyway, we've worked hard in the offseason to refine our package and just understand how to make that Sport GT3 Evo even better. and that really paid off. I think as Will said, you see in the race, qualifying doesn't matter too much, and it might not tell the story of the race, but as I think you all know, it's a very long race, so you have to just be there at the end. So qualifying school, you're at the front. You can hang out at the front, hopefully for the whole race, but you can also win from the back. So it's cool to show our potential and know that we have a gun in a gunfight, hopefully. But it's a long race, and we're just going to try to keep it clean for 24 hours. Is there anything to say to somebody that's trying to blow up our spot here?
Let me get Don up here to talk a little bit about strategy because he has another meeting to go to. It might be an AARP meeting or something.
Said my slower car driver in the past. Anybody that knows that? Hi, everybody. By the way, how's everybody? So I actually want to start this out with a little history from last year. Same car, right? We obviously just slightly. Our car last year was 13, a few seconds a lap slower than the car this year. So I think we've really discovered a lot about this car, maturing it, making it not. Robbie qualified last year for the record. And just in perspective, even though we qualified 13th last year, we were leading this race with 30 minutes to go last year. It's the closest we wanted to come to finishing it, but we knew we really didn't have the car to win it. We didn't have the speed in a sprint. In a sprint, we really didn't have the speed last year to win it. So we weren't there. This year, I'm more confident in this car and what it can do. Robbie proved it by almost putting it on pole. We're as fast as any pro car or E car I think that's out there. And we'll see what really happens in the race tomorrow. To remind you, this race is really about one survival. Oxy said trouble, which our 4 drivers know. 3 of the drivers are back from prior years. Francis Seldorf has now come up from the GS series. He's very quick. He's going to be one of the fastest silvers out there, and he's smart. Not going to get into trouble. So I'm saying that aloud so he hears it. If he can hear me right now. So that's critical. But also, frankly, if you know. I think we said the trouble will be there at the end. I think this other aspect of winning this race is sort of how good the crew is. So just to remind you, this is 40 seconds to build this car. This car will do about 30 laps, give or take, and most cars should be BOP, balanced performance, to be about 30 laps per day. Obviously, managing fuel and having a little advantage, being a little less fuel. Now they call it energy, megajoules of energy, but it's fuel at the end of the day. It's a big advantage, and we know our drivers know how to manage fuel well in this car. So you can find 2, 3, 4 seconds in pit lane because you need less energy than another car. You'll end up in 3rd, not 8th, right? After a full course yellow. A lot of our strategy, if you watch during the pit stop, will be about jumping cars in pit lane, right? Less relevant in the first 6 hours, 12 hours, really relevant in the last 12 hours. So my strategy is always working backwards. You'll watch us from hour 18 to hour 24, really trying to get the car in the top 5 and then look for those opportunities, look for spot. It may or may not happen on track, but it'll likely happen in pit lane and making sure the car's in a really good position, brakes particularly, make sure you can have a sprint race at the end. So hopefully that gives perspective of what we can do this year. And it'll be likely Robbie at the end, Jens, Robbie in the last few hours of the race. Whoever's setting up. Good? Sure. Back in. Thanks everybody, I gotta run now.
Really run. All right, Patrick, come on up. Everybody here. You can talk about whatever you want.
We can all hear you now.
No, Robbie did a great job putting us in 3rd for qualifying. I was thinking about this last night. As drivers, we have 24 hours to pass 2 cars, and we win the race. The hard part of that is Don has 24 hours for us to not get passed by anybody else. So, no, we're starting in a great spot. We have a fast BMW. I think, like Will said, we're not quite sure that everybody showed all their cards yet, but we certainly put in a lot of work in the off-season. The guys and girls at Turner Motorsport have been working hard all winter, and we showed up here with a good piece, and I think we'll have a good race car come Sunday afternoon. Cool. So our latest addition to the GTD team, Francis Seldorf here.
Let me give you, Jimmy. I'll ask you a question.
So as you may know, Francis raced in GS with us and in VPRC with us. Won the championship in 2023. So it was a natural fit, a natural progression through our program to get him into the GTD car. Already he's done a 10-hour endurance race in GT3 car at Sebring, which we won. Granted, for those who know, there was only 4 cars in the class. But we kicked their ass. And Francis drove most of the race. It's almost not single-handedly, but he drove a lot of hours in the race, in a 10-hour race, because there was kind of no rules about minimum, maximum drive time. So we just put him out there at Sebring, which is one of the most grueling tracks that you can drive, and just let him go until I think he might have said uncle on the radio, and then we put him driving. But you haven't gotten a lot of seat time at Daytona because we've been changing things and running people through and doing a lot of setup stuff. But I don't know, maybe just say what your impressions are of your first 24 hours at Daytona and go with it.
I think the biggest thing is Patrick was a little bit close. Not a little bit close, like the biggest thing that Patrick actually told me was just the mentality difference. I mean, coming from GS, the longest race we did was 4 hours. Patrick told me how we have 6 hours to go, we still have a whole sail and 6 hours for Glenn left. So I think just rotating with these guys and just realizing the bigger picture is going to be a big thing, and we were going to be going for hours and hours. And I think also stepping up from the GT4 car. I mean, the GT4 car is a race car, but they're still in a street car components, and this is GT3's pure race car. So in a way, that makes it easier to drive, but harder to take advantage of all the problems. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to sharing this car with these guys. So yeah.
Cool. Let's go with some questions now because I can wait between John as the engine starts. People,
Do you have any spare parts for my M4 Comp?
spare parts for the M4 Comp. What do you think about that? GT4 side would fit. I guess engine stuff would fit. So hopefully we don't have to use any of our spare parts to fix this during the race, right? What's the biggest performance gain over the winter you found? That's a good question. We really won't know until we compare apples to apples on what we learned over the winter, which means when we came back here, we had a different performance level, different balance of performance level than we had in years past. So we can't compare apples to apples on why we got faster because there was too many changes. The weight change, there was a power change, and a new tire for this year. Slightly different tires, different Michelin. Because we can't really tell yet. But I think when we get back to a track that we have a similar BOP and something to see really well. I think one of the things that we kind of learned over the winter was to address any of the small little things during the season that we learned that could have been reliability stuff. Anything from a small leak to a bolt that keeps coming loose to whatever. We kind of went to the car and kind of addressed that, especially for this race. So knock on something. I hope we got all of them. All right, that's a Jay question, which is a good segue for Jay. Now he talks a lot, so you guys might hear me here till tomorrow. But Jay, so Jay is my engineer, and the guys can drive. The car comes from BMW, but Jay makes it go fast. So Jay, how much downforce does this car take, or does this car take, and why don't you want downforce here?
Okay, welcome everyone. So downforce, this car makes about twice the downforce of the GT4, or about half the downforce of an Indy car. So that gives you a relative measure. Downforce is a function of speed, so it's hard to give you a number that's the function of speed. So on the straight, at 150 miles an hour, it's about 2,500 feet. So more than about the way the car. Top speed in GTD, you'll see cars in the 280 kph, 270 kph, so roughly 170 miles per hour. The thing is, if you get 5 GTDs running nose to tail, they'll all go 10 miles an hour faster. So we can go faster in the race if we're in a track than we can by ourselves. So, but the key here is getting up the speed on those straights. So getting out of the bus stop really well and getting out of turn 6 really well, leading into 2 straights. That's the key. And to answer the earlier question, I think that's where we found the most performance, getting more traction out of those corners so that we can get up the top speed. Get up there faster. And the final thing I'll say before Will cuts me off is that this track, because we're going so much faster than the other track, drag is really important. So we start thinking about running the rear wing a little bit lower, running the car more low, taping up the brakes, so that there's less drag. Just because this track, drag is more important by a factor of 3 than safer and the other track. Basically, this track, Ohio and Monza are the 3 big drag tracks in the world. You want to go fast, so we got to use drag. So hopefully that gives you an answer. All right, well, you guys got me off.
What's the drag coefficient?
The drag coefficient is about 0.5. But that's because we're making so much downforce. If we took the downforce off, it'd be 0.25. But with downforce comes drag. That's part of the package. Does the 2 states BOP help us? Well, sure, when they give us more power at low speed, we get more traction. And then if they give us more power at high speed, we get more top speed. Of course, we want power all over. So, but as they balance low and high speed, that can make it better for us because the layout of our car makes it different. Is that enough, Will? You got it?
Yeah, I didn't understand. You talked about too engineering for me. Oh, thanks, Greg. Okay. So we have some hero cards that Hope is gonna help hand out or whatever you guys get you guys to sign them. And I think we got to wrap up a little bit because we have to warm up our things and going for them. And we're going to work readers prompts. And we do have a turbo support planning. And a new they're very proud of. Have a walk by there. But again, I appreciate everything.